Hi everyone, welcome to our new webinar, part of the CACEIS Talk series. I'm Analyse, Chief Digital Officer at CACEIS, and I'm delighted today to introduce you our new best-in-class fintech partner, SISMO, that will deal with all the quantamental issue. Just a brief agenda before we reach the heart of the topic. So first, a reminder, what is the Connect Store? Because SISMO is part of the global Connect Store offer from CACEIS. How SISMO can help investor, a demo of SISMO that will be managed by Emmanuel Dayan. And finally, you can send all your questions and we will be really happy to try to answer all your needs. So a quick reminder, what is the Connect Store all about? The Connect Store is a private marketplace that has been embedded into our web client portal, Analyse. From this new marketplace, you can benefit from all pre-selected best-in-class fintech partners that has been selected by CACEIS. We do already have 4 at the moment. The first one that can help you with fund distribution, the second one with the ESG clarity, and today we're dealing with SISMO about the quantamental topics. The main driver for this private marketplace is to let you benefit once again from a large range of pre-selected fintech partners that are in direct link with your business. How does it work? It's pretty simple. You log into your Analyse web portal, then you go into the dedicated web pages that deal with the Connect Store, then you select all the fintechs you would like to work with, and you can directly subscribe to the services of the fintechs. An additional benefit is that you will get the feedback from this fintech or provider directly into Analyse using a single sign-on technology. So just in a nutshell, you get into your Analyse web portal, you select the partners you want to work with, and you get the services back directly into Analyse. One login, one password, easy, all your information at the same time at the same place. In terms of roadmap, as I mentioned previously, we already have 4 embedded into the Connect Store: Fundglobam, Clarity, Osmose, SISMO today. The roadmap is pretty clear. We want to onboard 5 additional fintechs per year. The best thing for you is that all those fintechs do rely on data computed by CACEIS, and they will be pre-populated with all those data. So no additional burden, no additional task on your side. Everything is managed at CACEIS level, everything at the same place, one single time. So with no further ado, I will leave the floor to Emmanuel Dayan that will introduce you SISMO and will provide you with a detailed demonstration. Thanks a lot.
Arnaud. I'm very glad to have this opportunity today to introduce SISMO. SISMO is a financial analysis and visualization platform specifically designed for equity portfolio managers and risk managers, which is also used actually for reporting purposes. The tool has been developed by a team of fundamental and quantitative financial analysts, and we are marketed since 2020. The tool comes with a direct data feed from S&P Capital IQ, the database, with daily updates on global equity coverage. The tool offers fundamental financial analysis, assistance to portfolio constructions, and also post-trade analytics. The objective is quite clear. We want to provide PMs, fundamental PMs, with productivity tools to allow them to focus on their strengths and achieve better performance than systematic investment strategies. The way we want to do that is actually by combining fundamental investing and quantitative techniques and potentially additional data sets to offer a full-fledged quantamental investing solution. The idea here is to add to discretionary approach, which is very strong to the extent that it can use non-quantifiable information, the advantage of quantitative techniques in order to limit the weak point of direct discretionary approach. These weak points could be the limited ability to process large amounts of information, the limited statistical discernment and reasoning that we all have, including portfolio managers, the allocation biases, which are linked to the bottom-up approach of investment fundamental investors, and the cognitive biases like anchoring, framing, and disposition effect that affect all fundamental investors. The idea here is that by adding quantitative techniques, we bring unlimited computing capability and also adequate visual restitutions to allow a very clear reading of trends, of correlations, of factor biases. We can also offer a very easy access to top-down approach that complements ideally the bottom-up approach of most fundamental investors. The limited capabilities of quantitative techniques is of course that it can only process quantifiable information, and to that extent mixing fundamental investing with quantitative techniques allow to get the best of both worlds, the discretionary approach and the unlimited computing capability of the quantitative techniques. A few words now about what we also want to achieve out of SISMO, which is to allow PMs to spend more time in their key tasks and limit the time they devote to manipulating Excel spreadsheets. The background is that the tools which are currently used in asset management firms are mainly access to a terminal of data like Bloomberg and manipulation of the data out of spreadsheets like Excel. These tools were designed nearly 40 years ago, before the existence of internet, and at a moment when the data was scarce and there was no real visualization techniques. And they are limited in terms of capability to address the needs that comes with additional data sets. And also these tools do not allow easy access to the reading of trends, correlations, and outliers on thousands of stocks. And that's exactly what we want to offer directly with SISMO. The point also with SISMO is that in order to get the productivity of the PMs better, we will have inside SISMO the ability for PMs to update in one click their own libraries of screenings, of factors, their ranking analysis, their backtests. I mean, all these tools will come very handy, and PMs don't have to process all the data in the spreadsheets the way most of them still do currently. I'm now going to turn to a demo. I just want to, for that demo, to work out of certain questions, certain use cases to make that a bit more direct and attractive to you. So I'm going to split my demo here into 3 blocks. The first one is how do you use the tool to analyze portfolio holdings in relevant equity universes. The second one is about stock search, and the last one could be about the access to industry factor profiles and factor performance and correlations. So I'm going to start with the first one. Assuming I have a portfolio in SISMO, how are the stocks in my position in their relevant equity universe? Okay, let's now get into SISMO and see what we can do. So first point is SISMO is a web portal, so you just need to get on the internet, access directly the platform, and this is what it looks like. So here you have your portfolio that will be directly uploaded out of the Analyse and integration, but you can also upload them directly recognizing the ISIN code. And these portfolios, you can attach them to the relevant equity universes. So in my case, I'm going to use here 2 portfolios. One is about high dividend, the other one is about growth and quality. And these 2 portfolios, I've attached them to an equity universe of stocks with market value above 2 billion euros. That's a dynamic universe which currently includes about 900 stocks. I'm going to play a demo out of that. So first point, I want to make sure that how the stocks in my portfolio are positioned in their universe. So let's be in that universe of European stocks, start out of a blank page, here a shape chart, and try to see what it could look like if we do a basic visualization on multiple metrics. In SISMO, we offer about more than 100 indicators with multiple parameters, and these indicators are grouped by family of indicators and factors. I'm going to use first one of the key indicators that most fundamental investors use, a return on invested capital. When I do that, I have directly on screen here calculated on the fly the distribution of the return on invested capital of my universe of nearly 900 stocks. This goes from the left-hand side to the right-hand side according to this x-axis here. And on this positioning here, I can read the position of my portfolio. So this is my growth and quality portfolio. You can notice that most of the stocks are located on the right-hand side of the distribution. And if I choose my other portfolio, which is the high div portfolio, it's more on actually on the left-hand side of the distribution. As you can see, each tile here, you have a tooltip indicating the detail of the calculations of the indicator. You can obviously zoom in, and you can just get on the list here to see where your stock is located, and that will point directly to the corresponding stock, and you can see what you have here. Now I'm going to add a few more ties to that distribution here. One that will represent, for instance, the portfolio here. I'm going to add a tie for median. Also going to add a couple of ties for average and for market weighted average. And I will also add additional ties to indicate the median position of sectors. Let's see what we get here. Okay, let's get back to the growth and quality Europe portfolio test. The median of my distribution is here at 9.96. I can actually use my cursors here to indicate the median positioning, which is here. And I can see the median positioning now of my portfolio. The median is here at 17.4. The average is here, 28.4. And here is the market weighted average. Now, if I look at my other dividend, the high div, it's here. And the median is at 975, slightly below the 998, which is the median of my universe. These ties that you can see here, these other ties here, they are actually the sector ties. So this allows me to read as well the universe positioning of sectors. The technology sector would be on the right-hand side with stocks which have a very high return on invested capital. And the transportation, to get that example here, will be on the left-hand side with stocks which are mainly distributed on the left-hand side of the distribution. Now, this allows me to get, as you can see here, the positioning of my portfolio. That's on one metric, but it becomes really interesting at the moment when I can add additional metrics. So I'm going to do that now. This was my return on invested capital on the x-axis. I'm going to use a color gradient to express another indicator. So let's stick to the quality thematics here and go to debt divided by EBITDA to indicate the leverage. I'm going to switch the coloring to allow you to read where are the high leverage stocks located in the universe of European equities. And you can see that most of these stocks are actually on the left-hand side of the distribution of my return on invested capital. So there's a strong correlation between the two indicators. I'm also going to load another indicator, now switching to sell-side consensus. Let's go, for instance, to the percentage buy. And I'm going to use another visual, which is here, that will allow me to read at once directly three metrics. So let me try and explain this. I'm going to first load a portfolio here, like this one here. So what do we have here? We have the return on invested capital, which is distributed from the left to the right, each column representing one quartile of the distribution, bottom quartile on the left-hand side, top quartile on the right-hand side. We have the leverage in the sense of net debt divided by EBITDA, which is distributed by row. On the first row, you have the high leverage stocks. At the bottom, you have the low leverage stocks, and you can see the correlation with high leverage being mainly on stocks which have a low return on invested capital. And from red to green, you have the color gradient indicating the percentage of buy recommendation. And you can see that here there is absolutely no correlation. There are stocks with high brokers' recommendations which are distributed equally on irrespective of the leverage or the return on invested capital. I can obviously zoom in and check into the details and go and check where the stocks are located, the stocks in my portfolio here. I can also look directly for the positioning of my portfolio, but I can also use an embedded Excel spreadsheets that will allow me to read all the stocks. So let me explain what you have here. Let's take that one, for instance. You can get the return on invested capital at 14%. You can get the leverage here, and you can get the percentage of buy positioning by the analyst. You can also look at these metrics in decile positioning, keeping in mind that I've inverted my leverage distribution. So you have this positioning depending on the decile. And by adding up the decile, you actually get a score And that score allows you to score the overall, your overall portfolio. So you will see on top the stocks which match the best combinations of high return on invested capital, low leverage, high percentage buy, which is here, and stocks in your portfolio that potentially may not fit these criteria, which are at the bottom here. So that was my first question. Are the stocks in my portfolio positioned in their universe? I want to tackle the second one very quickly here. How are the stocks in my portfolio positioned relative to their sectors? So in order to do that, I'm going to get back to the visual here. Let's use that one, for instance. And remind you that we've actually indicated these ties here, which represent the median positioning of the various sectors. So when I'm in a stock, let's take for instance a semiconductor stock, I can easily take out from the position of that stock the median of the sectors to measure just the distance from the stock to its corresponding sector. So I'm going to use this control here, X minus med. I'm going to use it actually for the three indicators at once. Okay, and doing that, let's switch to directly table, get back to one of the portfolios. Let's use this one here and do this. And now in that case, you will see that you have the positioning of the stocks and the score as well. But now, this time, the stocks are positioned in relative distance to their median sectors. So now you can really see the stocks which are actually not only well positioned on the various metrics, but positions above or below their corresponding sectors, and you can rank and sort your holdings. Question number 3, what is the factor profile of my portfolio on standard and custom factors? So let's get now to the factor analysis. First, I want to get out of this screening here. I'm going to save it. So that would be my test snap 2, and this is going to be fitting nicely in my snapshot library, which is here. I'm going to use the factor menu, get to the display factor analysis, which is here, play for the time being on my European market value above 2 billion on standard factors, and I'm going to load one of my portfolio. Growth and quality, let's have a look here. We have indeed the average profile and also with the shade here, the dispersion inside of my holdings, inside my portfolio. And you can see this kind of visual. So how do you read that? The green dotted line represents the average of the universe at that date, the 6th of December 2022. And here you see the biases directly expressed in standard deviation from the average. So in terms of this portfolio, it has a high quality in the sense that the distance is nearly 0.9 standard deviation. Momentum is neutral, high growth. This one is slightly below average in terms of yield and value, and has a quite good side sentiment and low risk. If I load the other one, which is the high div portfolio, you can see here that you have this strong bias in terms of yield and value, and obviously this comes with low growth exposure, which you can read here. You can also load directly the holdings of the portfolio, so I'm going to load it here directly for the growth holdings, and I'm going to cover that, but I just want to express here that this kind of visual, not only you can see that at one date, but you can also go back in time and measure the changes in the various positionings. So I'm going to do that over time, starting with at the end of December 2021, then March 22, June 22, 6th of September 2022, end of September, and finally here the 6th of December. So I can really move the dates here and get to any dates which I want and read the changes in the biases of my portfolio. I want to express also here how are the stocks distributed on the right-hand side in the table of constituents. This is my portfolio as of yesterday, and the stocks here are distributed by similarity on the overall axis. I'm going to start with this stock here, and then go to ABB, and then go to this one, and you can see that all these stocks are quite similar. And I actually have a similarity index, which is here, which expresses the average distance from one stock to the one below. I can also sort stocks on the various axes which I have. So I'm going to do that on growth. This stock will come with high growth. Momentum, this stock here will come with high momentum, and so on and so forth. So I can do that, and I can also filter directly. Now, what I'm showing to you at this moment here is the exposure on standard factors. Let's put back this one here and here, exposure on standard factor. Now, I can do that, and the PM will do that on their set of factors which are relevant to their own analysis. So I'm going to load another library of factors here, which is much more, with much more depth. So here you have a lot of quality factors. You have a lot of momentum factors, liquidity factors, growth factors, dividend factors, value factors, and also technical indicators like price versus moving average, or one moving average versus another moving average, or max drawdown for risk here. So you can read the profile of your portfolio on these metrics. You can also get the details here directly, so many more factors, as you can see, and play with all the similarity indicators, play with the sorting, all the flexibility that I've indicated here, and you can also switch in dates and get back to other dates in the past. So that was my question about what is the factor profile of my portfolio on standard and custom factors. Now, how can I adjust my portfolio to get a different profile? Let's get back to the standard display. I'm going to use here the standard display. Okay, and I have this portfolio here. I want to adjust this portfolio. Let's assume I want to give it some kind of bias in, let's say, value and sell-side sentiments. So I'm going to use the filtering value here and take out, let's say, the first 3D size in terms of value exposure. And let's take out maybe another 2D size here in terms of sell-side sentiment exposure. I'm down to 30 stocks. I'm going to create a basket list out of that. So that would be, let's call it CACEIS 1. And that CACEIS 1, I'm going to load it on the left-hand side and compare it to my portfolio here. So if I do this, CACEIS 1, what you can see, you have the original portfolio in white, and you have the filtered portfolio in red. And you can see that the biases is indeed much higher now on value and also on the sell-side sentiment. And the other exposures are quite similar. Another way to do that would be now to work out of the CACEIS 1 portfolio and assume that we want to add a few stocks. So if I still want to somehow increase the value axis, for instance, I can very well add a few banks. Just to, as an example here, I'm going to add HSBC. I'm going to add, for instance, Barclays. And I can do that also with Société Générale. Okay, and why not? Let's add also another stock like Renault. Okay, and I'm going to update this and save the result, which is actually already on display, as something that I will call CACEIS number 2. And this CACEIS number 2, I'm going to get back to the number 1, actually, which I'm going to load here. And compare it with the new one, which is the red one. And you can see that the addition of these 4 stocks, which are value stocks, have indeed increased the value positioning. So what I've done here is actually in the first case, I've filtered out some stocks to get a better positioning. And in the second case, I've added stocks to get indeed an additional exposure on certain axes. And this can be done, obviously, not only on the standard factors, but on any set of factors. Stock search, how to find stocks out of a simple screening or backtest. Now, I'm going to get back to the original analysis we did together and use some kind of filtering. First, I want to get back to the standard X positioning here and use some kind of filtering. So let's assume we want to filter out all the stocks which have return on invested capital below 20%, have maybe less than, let's say we want to be above 60% in terms of percentage buy, and a leverage below 1. So that would be 65 stocks. These 65 stocks, I can easily create a basket list out of that. I'm going to call that CACEIS 3. And this CACEIS 3 is basically a list of stocks that match certain criteria. I can read them here. I can read them actually here. That's my 65 stocks here. I can take out some of them. I can add others. I can also sort of backtest this portfolio here very quickly to get a sense of what would have been the performance of that portfolio over a 1-year period or a 3-year period. It would be here, and get into the details of the performance of each stock. Another way to do that would actually be to backtest the strategy directly. So what would have been the performance of a portfolio invested according to these criteria and say rebalanced every month or every week actually. So if we do that out of that universe of stocks, we will get a backtest, and that backtest is actually something that I'm going to show to you directly here. That would have been the performance of such strategy over a 5-year period, and the details are here. And you can see in this kind of backtest that you have the stocks which match the various criteria, and when one of the criteria is not met, the stocks gets out of the backtest portfolio and gets back in when all the criteria are actually met. So you can see the way this backtest is being constructed. Now, in terms of screening, what's the use of that? Actually, the use is to check the stocks that would have been most frequently in this kind of strategy. So if I look at my strategy here, I see that the stocks like ASML or Accenture or Somfy or Dassault Aviation or Soitec or Logitech, I mean, all these stocks which have high quality positioning and strong buy positioning over the last 5 years, they have been primarily in the backtest portfolio for nearly 100% or above 70% of the time. That's also a way for the asset managers to obviously look in the past, but make sure that these stocks meet the strategy and the criteria which have been set. Starting with the stock, how to find stocks with similar factor profile on all factors. Now let's use here this analysis on the polar chart and let's start with the stock that everyone knows, actually LVMH. So you can see here that you have the positioning of that stock with growth positioning, momentum, high quality, risk is slightly above average, side sentiment, value, and so on and so forth. So classic profile of LVMH. You can compare that to the overall profile of these sectors, and you can see that it's quite consistent with better side sentiment and a bit more expensive than the sector, and so on and so forth. Now, if you want to find a stock that looks like LVMH, you can use this peers engine, which is on the left-hand side here, and that will find the stocks which are closest in terms of the various axes that we have here. Interparfum, you can see here, it could be quite a good match. This one also could be a good match, and so on and so forth. So you can go and do that. You can stick to the only to the relevant sectors, and here you would have Moncler and Kering, for instance. You can take this company and Richemont, Hugo Boss, and so on and so forth, and see to what extent these stocks have had a similar performance as the primary stocks that we have indicated. And here you can see the performance. Let's go to 6 months to see what would have been the performance of these stocks. So that would be one way to find a comparable company. Another way would be actually to say, okay, we want to stick to LVMH, but we don't really want to get this axis here. So I'm going to take it out from the peer search. We don't really care for this axis as well, and maybe we ignore that one for the time being. So what do we have in terms of peers? Going back to the full universe, I can see here that I have a stock, which is a Swedish company, absolutely nothing in common with LVMH, but you can see that the profile is actually quite similar on the axis which I've kept, and on the axis which I've ignored, it's completely different. Okay, so that was actually question number 6, and question number 7, how to find stocks with similar factor profile on certain factors. Now, question number 8, how to search stocks with specific profile from a large data sets like the MSCI Europe, for instance. Okay, let's take out this company and also take out LVMH, and now try and load something like the MSCI Europe index. going to use the constituents on the right-hand side here. Let's just restore this data and check this data. Now let's assume I want to build up a portfolio with certain axes. So let's try and get a bit of momentum. Let's try to get let's say high quality stocks as well. And maybe at the same time, let's go for value stocks. So if I do this, I have here 45 stocks which have been put on top of my list. So here are the 45 stocks which meet that criteria. If I click on one, solve, you will see that I get the axis which I want on momentum and quality. Quality I can get a bit actually higher than this. So let's go here. Okay, these 30 stocks which I have here, I want to create a basket list for them. And that would be, I guess, my CACEIS 5. And that CACEIS 5, I'm going to play it here. Okay, and put it actually in the white slot so that you can see it well. And take out the MSCI. So what do we have here? We have this momentum axis, we have the quality axis, we have the value axis, and well, exactly what we wanted actually. And we can actually check what we get, which is less growth, and also get back in time to understand what would have been the profile of such stocks going backward to, well, any date actually. So that answers my question here, how to search stocks with specific profile from large data sets. Now, how to perform advanced screening from rank analysis. Okay, let's try and do that as well. Going to get back to my original library here and use my test snap number 2 that we did together. And I'm going also to use additional indicators like sentiment factors, growth factors, momentum factors. I could use any metrics actually. And I want to create a ranking analysis. So what is this about? I'm going to get all my factors here and metrics, the return on invested capital, percentage by, net debt, and I want to get the display of all the rankings as of the 6th of December, and let's say also, maybe end of last year. Okay, let's try and do that. What am I going to get on display here? I'm going to get as many metrics as I've selected, so 6 in that case, and I'm going to read the universe at that date, the 6th of December, and also as of the end of December 2021, and check the positioning of the various holdings. Let's put on top one of the portfolio, like this one, growth and quality, and try and understand what we have on screen. Okay, on the right-hand side, I can see the various metrics, ROIC, percentage by, leverage, sentiment positioning, growth positioning, and so on and so forth. All these metrics can be expressed in value. They can also be expressed directly in rank. So here I would see directly the rank of the stocks out of the global universe at that date. I can read this information in terms of ranks for each metric, but also in terms of average rank. That's at the end of 2021. I can read the same information at yesterday, actually, the 6th of December 2022. I can also sort my portfolio to get actually the best ranking at that date. So that would be the ideal combination in my portfolio on all these metrics, and the one stocks at the bottom which do not fit as well the other metrics. And to the left-hand side, I can see the change in ranks, and I can see the change in average ranks on the portfolio and on the universe. Now, how is that a screening tool? It's a screening tool to the extent that you can actually filter on each metric. So there again, I'm going to use a bit of filtering on ROIC. I'm going to use sell-side sentiment here to filter this out. Actually, a bit of momentum as well. So the kind of play that you've seen on this demo, quite a lot actually of filtering. Let's do that again on growth, for instance. Okay, so I'm down to 44 stocks. These 44 stocks, I'm going to create a basket list now with them. That should be my, I guess, CACEIS number 6. And to finish this demo, I'm going just to plot the profile of this CACEIS 6 list, which is here. So done. That's number 6. And that's exactly what we've just done. So we wanted a bit of momentum, a bit of growth, high ROIC, and we get this kind of profile here. And there again, I can put to the right-hand side the corresponding stocks and check what I get and also play this over time. So this gives you an overview of what we can do, and obviously if we want to go deeper into any axis, we can go directly, for instance, into any axis like the quality factor here and plot directly the corresponding stocks. That's what you would get here, and to see where this CACEIS 6 is positioned on this axis of quality. I've gone very quickly here to try and show you as much as possible. I didn't finish actually all my analysis here, but I hope this was quite helpful. I got one more minute. I'm actually going to use it to show you one of the last features I wanted to indicate here. We've discussed the ability to read stocks. We've discussed the ability to read portfolios. I want to show you also the ability to understand the overall positioning of the sectors. So that's a way to actually read the overall positioning of the sectors. If the question becomes today, what is the sector in my European stock that has the best momentum? I can see that, for instance, the oil and gas would be quite well positioned. The best growth, biotech would be the one, quality, and so on and so forth. So this is also very useful to read all the sector positioning and also the similarity of the various sectors. Obviously, if you want to go deeper, you can just click on the magnifying glasses and get access, in that case, to all the chemicals positioning. I wanted to cover as well the quartile positioning, but that's a bit more quantitative here. That's the idea here being to identify the correlation between factors and the performance of various factors. I'm running out of time, so I will get back to you in further demos on this. A few questions now. Questions first, how can we use additional sets of data that would not come from S&P necessarily, and especially ESG data, which are so important now to asset managers? The answer to that is we are at the moment building a pipe to external data, a pipe to the data which are located in the asset management firm, and we want to be able to offer to you not only the indicators that we offer here, standard factors, standard indicators, and also customized indicators and proprietary indicators, but also your own set of indicators and your own set of ESG data. So this is what we're doing at the moment. It will be ready in a few months. And then you will have the ability to treat in the same manner that you treat the other indicators and factors, your own set of ESG data, your own sets of indicators, your own sets of scoring, and play with all the functionalities of SISMO for factors, for screening, for ranking analysis. So this is in the pipe, and this will be delivered very soon. Last question about the price structure. How much does it cost? Well, it does not cost a lot. I mean, we're a fintech. We're trying to get market share. So at the moment, we offer very competitive pricing. The price is decreasing, obviously, according to the number of licenses that you buy. Just to give you an idea, if you start with one single license at the moment, the price is 9,000 euros per year. That's all inclusive. It comes with the data set, it comes with the training, it comes with the product, which is exactly the one I've shown to you on this demo. And obviously, it would be completely customized to your needs with your own library of screenings, with your own library of factors and analysis. So it has to be something that you use very easily on a daily basis that gives you all the assistance that you need and that you can expect from a highly advanced quantitative tool. Thank you very much for your time, and we will be very happy to get in touch and follow up on your questions.